So I was thinking the other day, I was thinking about upcoming Pokemon card sets because that's what we do in Pokemon. Like we don't have a set release. Instead, we talk about like the next several sets that are going to come out after the most like upcoming set release. So Destined Rivals is the next set release. It comes out 2 weeks from today, but we're already talking about Black Bolt and White Flare. We're already losing our minds about that. That's just what we do for some reason. I don't know. I have no idea why. But I was thinking about the 30th anniversary set. We're like a year away from the 30th anniversary set, but I started thinking, going back in my time capsule of a lack of a brain, and I'm like, what did Pokemon do for their 5th anniversary set? Well, they didn't really have one. What did they do for their 10th anniversary set? I think it was just like a bunch of promo cards. Like it wasn't an actual set. Well, what did they do for their 15th anniversary set? Well, they didn't really have an English one at all. There was a Japanese box, like a premium collection. Like it has that really cool Pikachu in it, but I don't think they had anything English-wise. What did they do for the 20th anniversary? Generations. Okay, Generations was like the first time they celebrated an anniversary with a set release. So there has not been, like, I don't think you should necessarily compare set releases to something else. Well, I get all the time, like, people are asking, what's the evolving skies of the Scarlet and Violet generation? Have you heard that before? Have you heard somebody ask you, like, what do you think, what Scarlet and Violet set will be like Evolving Skies? Nothing. Nothing has ever been like Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies is drunk. I don't know. Nobody should ever think that anything will ever be like Evolving Skies again. It's completely lost its mind. But I don't think you should necessarily compare like a 30th anniversary to Generations, nor should you compare the 25th anniversary set, which is Celebrations, to Generations. We're kind of going to do that in this video because we're going to look at Celebrations. But Generations was a completely different animal. But if you look at the prices now, and this is what's insane to me. So this is like my segue into a Celebrations talk, which doesn't make any sense. The Super Premium Collection. So this was before they had Ultra Premium Collections. They had the Super Premium Collections. A lot of people will be like, oh, the UPC from Celebrations is going to be $1,000. The market price on the Super Premium Collection is only $1,000 right now. Generations obviously came out 5 years before Celebrations, which was the 25th anniversary set. If you look at the Elite Trainer box for Generations, $750. Lowest one listed is about $1,250. Now that just means that it's not selling for these higher price points. The market price hasn't caught up to what the actual lowest listings are because there hasn't been any sales. A lot of people were talking about, well, Fanny, you have to look at booster boxes on eBay. Yeah, you do have to look at booster boxes on eBay. You have to look at all this stuff on eBay also, but the market price isn't updating on TCG Player until there's consistent sales volume. And right now there's no consistent sales volume because it's not selling at those higher price points. But you have all these collection boxes. There were a ton of collection boxes with Generations, all the mythical pin collection boxes, which came with a few packs of Generations and then a promo card. The promo cards are doing very well right now, but even the mythical pin collections are also doing really well right now. And the most important thing to remember, a lot of people are like, well, Celebrations was printed to high heaven. So was Generations. Generations was printed like crazy. I remember when Generations first came out, I remember finding tons of Generation products in stores. I remember opening all of these multiple times. And the hit rates, the pull rates in Generations were amazing because you did have that Radiant collection in there. So you were pulling some really cool cards all the time. The price point on singles were very, very low because of the amount of product that was constantly getting opened. Like it was insane. You did not have a whole lot of competitive cards in the set. There were some reprints like the Circle Circuit Raichu, which brought prices down a little bit from Raichu having like a couple dollars value from its original holographic rare, but for the most part, a lot of reprints, a lot of things like that, and paying homage to a lot of like traditional, nostalgic, original 151 Pokemon. But Generations was out there. It was everywhere. Like you could walk into Target, you could find it on the shelves. It was crazy, even to the point where like Black Friday hit and the Cyber Monday, like all the shopping season hit, and these were all clearanced out. Like even the Super Premium Collection you could find on Target's clearance shelves like a year and a half after release, maybe even longer than that. Same thing with the Elite Trainer box. They were really inexpensive and they were marked down. Like the Elite Trainer box was probably going for like $30 because there was just no demand for it. The demand was not there for it. Then fast forward to Celebrations, right? 5 years later, came out during a time where Pokemon was kind of fading a little bit, but still really at a height. And it's going to be very interesting territory as we move into the 30th celebration, the 30th, whatever they decide to do. But you cannot compare these two because they're completely different. This was the first time we actually had a full specialty set released dedicated towards the anniversary anniversary of the trading card game, of Pokemon. Like, they have not done that before. They've done ancillary products before, but never an actual set release. Then they did the same thing with Celebrations, but you can't really compare the two because Celebrations was completely different. Look at this. Celebrations was a 4-card pack, whereas Generations was a normal standard pack. It was a normal standard booster pack. Booster packs for Generations selling for $96, $97. You had, I mean, what, 10, 11 cards, 10 cards that came inside, plus an energy card, plus a code card. Like, it was a very traditional style release, whereas Celebrations, you only get 4 cards in here. So you wouldn't expect this to be a $100 pack, 10 years down the road, not necessarily, but the pull rates in Celebrations were absolutely insane. We're going to talk about Celebrations. I'm going to stop like dancing around here and kind of just jump into it because there has been a lot of movement on Celebrations over the past year. Singles itself have dropped like crazy. I think singles are a very dangerous, very volatile market to get into. A lot of people talk about Pokemon card investing and investing in sealed products, and I do believe liquidity is very important. I think there's going to be liquidity for a set like Celebrations for a long time. Now, yeah, Celebrations was printed to the moon, but it is a very fun set to open, and every time you go through surges, like what we've gone through over the past 6 months now, really ever since the release of Surging Sparks, where there's been a lot of people getting into the hobby, every time you go through that, people want to take trips down memory road, and there was a lot of people that were kind of getting into the hobby right before Celebrations, and maybe Celebrations kind of capped it. Maybe that's where they finished the hobby, they got out, they did something else, and maybe they're getting back into it now, and that's part of the reason why you see a giant increase in Celebrations, because maybe people didn't finish that set, or they want to relive some of those memories that they made during the pandemic, or whatever the case may be that makes them want to open Celebrations. They're like, well, it's only about $10 right now for a booster pack. You get 4 cards, but the hit rates are really good in them. Maybe I can pull that nostalgic Charizard, that base set Charizard, or maybe I can pull that Umbreon Star, or that shining Magikarp would be really fun to pull. But it's a nice trip down memory lane, which is what I think is going to be something that people really enjoy for a long time to come. So I don't usually make predictions. I don't like to do anything like that, but I think Celebrations is going to be a fantastic set for a very, very long time. I'm not saying it's going to jump up to $1,000 for an Elite Trainer box within 10 years, but I do think that it's going to be a very popular. The great thing about this set is also it doesn't just come with 10 Celebrations booster packs inside, right? Like, it comes with additional booster packs. Now, unfortunately, it's the early part of the Sword and Shield era, so you get packs like Vivid Voltage, Battle Styles, things like that. You don't get a whole lot of Evolving Skies product in Celebrations product, but you do get additional booster packs, which is kind of like a bonus. But if you look at what Celebrations Elite Trainer boxes have done over the past year, they have gained a lot in popularity, and as we move into the 30th anniversary, we saw what happened with Black and White. A lot of Black and White cards have gone up like crazy. A lot of Black and White booster packs have blown up like crazy, and as we get closer and closer to that 30th anniversary set, if there is one, because Pokemon hasn't announced one before, and remember, we've only had 2 set releases that have been because of an anniversary. So yeah, we're entering in the 30th anniversary next year, but we're not necessarily guaranteed to have a 30th anniversary set just because we had one for the 20th and we had one for the 25th. Like, they didn't do one for the 15th. They didn't do one. We would think that they will, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. But if they do, I mean, you can bet like this is going to get a lot of attention. The 25th anniversary, the 20th anniversary, those are going to garner a lot of attention as soon as that set gets announced. And it might get to a point again like what we're just experiencing now with Black and White, where you start seeing, this huge insurgence in prices, which is, I mean, that's just the way the market is right now, because so many people are looking at Pokemon as an investment. So they look at it as, well, I'm going to buy the 25th anniversary while it's still relatively inexpensive now, knowing that in the next few years, the 35th anniversary or the 50th anniversary or whatever the case may be, who knows what price point it's going to be at. I do think a lot of people are still sitting on Celebrations Elite Trainer boxes. I think there's a lot out there. I think that there's probably storage units full of Elite Trainer boxes. I think there's probably people who are sitting on a lot of UPCs, things like that, waiting for these to kind of blow up in price. So you definitely want to be careful. But 138.05 is where it's currently sitting. It's about 81% growth over the past year, and it was already starting to grow a little bit before we saw this giant surge. You can see in August of 2024, relatively flat for the first 8 months of 2024. We're sitting right around $75, and it had been that way really since release. Like, release for the Celebrations Elite Trainer box was right around $75. Like, it was being scalped a little bit. It wasn't anything too crazy, not like what we're seeing with Prismatic Evolutions, but it was above MSRP, despite the fact that it was pretty available. Pokemon did a good job of printing it, and they did it in waved releases. So they had multiple waves of Elite Trainer boxes that got released, but then all of a sudden August started growing a little bit. So even before we saw the boom in November, now obviously obviously November. It's a much steeper climb right here, but it was already growing a little bit, climbed up to about $90 in November, and then really started shooting up. Now it's sitting at $137.89, just off of its one-year high, and you can still see pretty liquid, like selling between 10 and 20 Elite Trainer boxes on a weekly basis, whereas last year, the beginning of the year, it was only selling about 10 on a weekly basis. So still a relatively liquid product because there is still interest level there, because it's not at a point yet where it's kind of priced people out of the hobby. A lot of Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes, this is an area where we got to be really careful because there has been so much FOMO, not just on the sealed product, but on the stamp cards as well, and a lot of them are correcting. You can see this one right here correcting a little bit. We're not seeing anything too rapid as far as a drop goes. It's down about 10% over the past month, which is not necessarily anything too specific when you look at, or too impactful when you look at how much it's grown over the past year. But you can see, again, relatively flat from August up until November, hitting right around $100, $101 for the Pokemon exclusive Elite Trainer box. Now, this doesn't come with a stamp promo or anything like that. They did that after the Sword and Shield era, so that didn't start until the Scarlet and Violet set, but still a much different Elite Trainer box than the normal one. It's a lot bigger, a lot bulkier, basically two of them put together. It did jump up to about $220 recently, and it's retraced a little bit, sitting at $199.52. But again, still up about 91% and continuing to grow. Obviously, they're not necessarily going to reprint this one. I won't say for sure 100% they're never going to reprint Celebrations, but I think we can safely say 99% sure that they're not going to reprint it. Here's the Ultra Premium Collection right here. This is the product that a lot of people thought was going to be at $1,000 already at this point. This was not necessarily short printed, but underprinted, I think, for a lot of the demand that was out there, probably for a lot of various reasons. There was problems with the Charizard that was inside. It had the metallic Charizard, it had the metal Pikachu, which were really cool, but they shipped really easily, so that didn't go over very well with a lot of collectors. They were big and bulky, and they've got a lot of cool contents inside, but I can't imagine they were very cheap to produce, and because of the demand for it, it just was like, I don't know what the SPC is going to look like. You can let me know in the comment section down below how your hunt is going for the SPC from Prismatic Evolutions, but it seems a little comparable to the UPC, where it's just kind of difficult to get your hands on one at a decent price point. In August of 2024, this was sitting at $331.61. For a couple years after release, this thing's hovered right around $300 to $350. Only recently, really November of 2024, that's when you started seeing it grow quite a bit. You can see that very steep growth after trending downward for the majority of 2024, where it jumped all the way up over $400, retraced a little bit, and now it's jumped up again to $456.86. This one started out so expensive that I think a lot of people didn't even bother opening it. They just kept it sealed right away, hoping that it would continue to increase in value. We showed off the SPC from Generations. That one's selling for about $1,000. Obviously, that one released about 14 years ago now, so that's been out for quite some time. So I don't think we should worry about the UPC getting to $1,000 anytime soon, but definitely going to continue trending upward, especially as it ages more and more. It's sitting at $456.86 right now. That is an all-time high for that one. Here's the Lance's Charizard V. Never underestimate the power of Charizard. This one got reprinted and restocked at Walmart time and time again, but this is one of the only Celebrations product that really hasn't wavered, except when it did get reprinted. It would crash, but then it would just start gaining and gaining and gaining. It's got a really cool Lance's Charizard V artwork in it. It's got the Celebrations packs in it. This was paired up with the Sylveon. You can't buy a sealed case of only the Charizards because it does come in a sealed case with 3 Charizard and 3 Dark Sylveon, but the Charizard itself has done extremely well ever since release. You can see in August of 2024, it was down to about $35.46. It's only about $10 above MSRP, so very close to the point of MSRP plus shipping, but then growth, a lot of growth already. Even before November, you can see it get bought up a lot in November and then started climbing a lot more and more. Now it's up about 60% on the year, sitting at $59.79 and continuing to move upward. Charizard is just always going. Anytime you put Charizard on a product, it just continues to grow. Here's the Celebrations mini tin display. I'm not looking at the individual mini tins because those are fairly common to get. The displays are always interesting, especially if you can get them sealed, because you can't really get them sealed from big box stores. The only way to get them sealed is going to be from like an LGS, which is why that's always like the way to go, in my opinion. If you can find an LGS who sells at a decent price point, maybe they will take MSRP on a tin product, but sealed displays, they rip them open at big box stores, right? Like marketing companies will stock them because they sell the tins individually, so there's going to be few and far between of those sealed mini tin displays, which is why I think it's always kind of a cool piece. Not super liquid because there's not a lot of demand behind it, but you can see quite a bit of growth over the past 6-7 months right now. It was at $128.84 as its 1 1-year low. Now it started moving quite a bit, but not a whole lot of sales dictating that price growth, but it is selling at least a little bit at those higher price points. So sitting at $180.81 right now, up about 40% on the year. Here's the Celebrations booster pack. So this is just the 4-card booster pack. Again, I do think this is going to continue to grow, even though it's already at almost $11. There's only 4 cards in this pack. Yeah, definitely not a whole lot of cards, but every card in it is a holographic, and every card, I mean, not every pack, but a lot of packs aren't going to have hits in it. It's just a very strong pull rate set. Like, it doesn't take much to master the set for Celebrations, which is good. A lot of people could, I mean, it's bad for the single prices, but good for people who want to get hits every time they open up a pack. So a lot of time you'll get double bangers in it because it's got the Celebrations Classic Collection and the Celebrations Normal Set Pokemon cards in it. It's just a lot of fun set to open and kind of take a trip down memory lane because there's so many years of different Pokemon cards that were released. So anytime you might have been involved in Pokemon, if somebody returns to the game, there would be a card that you could pull from Celebrations that might have some resonance from when the time was that you were originally collecting, which is kind of cool. In June of 2024, it was sitting at a 1-year low of $6.70. It grew quite a bit. And again, a lot of this is due to just ripping shippers and things like that needing inventory. You can see just a lot of sales happening right there in November, where all of a sudden it was selling over 200 packs on a weekly basis, but still selling over 100 packs on a lot of weeks in February, and then kind of died down a little bit in March and April. But it's jumped up about 54.5% over the past year, sitting at $10.80 right now and continuing to grow. Single cards are retracing like crazy. This is why you always have to be really, really careful buying single cards. Like, I don't necessarily ever recommend investing in singles. I don't think that's a great idea. Like, I would collect singles because singles are fun to collect. Master sets, things like that. Like, it's a lot of fun. Obviously, everybody has their own chase cards, but never buy a single because you necessarily think it's going to increase in value because it's just so volatile. The market is so volatile. You can see with this gold Mew right here, obviously bought out in November, right? It was trending downward until November, hit $17.37 as a 1-year low. Then got bought up in November, where all of a sudden out of nowhere it sold 100 copies on a weekly basis. There's buyout groups, there's people out there who are purposely buying cards to drive up the price so that way they can relist them at higher price points, which is basically what happened here. It looks like it just jumped all the way up to $37.55, and then they started listing it at that price point. The amount of sales on a weekly basis clearly declined, where you're getting more of the normal between 20 and 40, but because the price shot up so quickly, people were buying at those higher price points out of fear that it was going to jump up even higher. But now it's corrected a little bit because the demand isn't there, and a lot of interest level in singles have dissipated a little bit, and now because of that it's dropped down to about $29.78. So it hasn't lost everything. It's still up about 18%, 17.5% on the year, but well down from where it was. I mean, it was at $37.55. You got to figure it's lost 30% over the past couple months. That's pretty substantial when you look at it. Same thing with the Charizard. The Charizard has retraced a little bit. Now it's only up about 5.5% on the year, which is still strong growth, and is still way above where it was in July of 2024 when it was at $64.70, but it's a far cry away from $103.71. You're looking at about 15% drop over the past month when it was at $103.71. So it has corrected. It's down to $88.57 and continuing to fall a little bit more. So it's always going to be a very popular card, a very fun card to pull, but it's really been hovering right around $70, $80 ever since release, and I think it will continue to stay at that price point. The Mega Rayquaza EX, part of the reason behind the success of this card is really just because of the return of Megas. Mega Rayquaza EX does the Emerald Break attack was always like this huge thing in competitive play. It was a very cool card. A lot of people loved playing it, but it was $8.93 from basically May of 2024 all the way up until November of 2024. Then once we started getting news of Megas returning to the game, it started shooting up. Now, the fact that already Pokemon was seeing a huge uptick in popularity also caused it to rise, and a lot of Celebration singles in general started to climb, but part of the reason this one hasn't really corrected that much is just because of that interest in Megas returning to the game. So you're up 108.5% over the past year, sitting at $20.66, only about 10% off of where its 1-year high point was of $22.55. Here's the Birthday Pikachu right here. Always a really popular card. This card has been talked about so many times. TCG Player wrote an article about how they think this is going to be like one of the best cards to invest in after Celebrations came out, and that really manipulated the price point on it and the market on it, and there's been a lot of demand for it. But it is a really cool card. In May of 2024, it was $5 $55.14. Again, relatively easy to pull. Goes through a lot of swings on TCG players. So obviously your goal is going to be, if you need this card, you want to buy it for single digits, and it will get back down to single digits. It's still up about 107% on the year, sitting at $11.23 right now, just off of its one-year high of $12.85. But you can look, a month ago it was down to about $9. So this is really relatively easy to pull in the Celebration set, and there's still a lot of Celebrations product being open on a daily basis, especially on different streams and things like that. Here's the Umbreon Gold Star right here. This one saw some massive growth in November. You can see some weird points as far as sales numbers go, where in December all of a sudden it sold between 70 and 80 copies, where the inventory on TCG Player was kind of bought out, and it got priced up to a new price point of $55.37. So it grew a lot from $12.81, which was its one-year low, all the way up to $55.37. There was definitely some FOMO going on. Some people like, oh, we got to buy this now before it climbs up too high. But now it has retraced, it has corrected, and clearly not as liquid as it was. Now it's selling between 30 and 40 copies on a weekly basis, as opposed to the 70 to 80 that it was selling for that small stretch in December. So $38.20 is where it's currently sitting. Not the easiest card to pull. I mean, all these classic collection cards, it takes you about 100 packs to pull. That's typically the pull rate, unless it's like a Rockets admin or a Dark Gyarados or a Shining Zapdos. Like, those are a little bit easier to pull. But the Umbreon, the Charizard, like, those are, I believe the pull rate on those were like 1 out of 100 packs, which isn't too terrible. Same thing with the Shining Magikarp. This one saw some really big growth, and you can see that line right there, that steep line right on the bar graph, where all of a sudden it sold 120 copies in a week, whereas normally it sells between 40 and 50, even less than that. Like, even a high end for the Shiny Magikarp is between 40 and 50 on a weekly basis. Typically it's selling between 20 and 30. So in August of 2024, it was an $8.38 card. And then all of a sudden in really January, so a little bit later than what we saw from some of this other growth, jumped all the way up to $26.84. But now it's dropped down to $17.71. So it's still up about 77%. It's still twice as high as where it was this time last year. But it's definitely retraced quite a bit now that the demand isn't there for it. So definitely a buyout that happened on that one. The Blastoise has been very popular, but the demand just isn't there. It's still up about 45.5%, 46% on the year. In May of 2024, it was sitting at $4.77. It was already climbing before November. So a lot different than some of these other cards, not necessarily going through buyouts, because you can see how much demand there is for this card. Like, it's still selling, 100 copies on a weekly basis, which is way more than what we see from a lot of these other cards that we're looking at. Jumped all the way up to $10.16. Now it's retraced. Now it's corrected a little bit, because it is a race to the bottom when it comes to selling off those duplicates and triplicates and things like that. So now it's down to $7.38. Still, again, up about 46%, but down about 30% from where it was in February when it was at that one-year high. Venusaur kind of doing the same thing. So in May of 2024, it was at $3.07. Already was growing quite a bit before November, and then November hit when we had this insurgence in Pokemon demand, and it jumped up to about $8.05. Now it's retraced a little bit down to $5.02. So it's still doing really well. Still up about 63.5%, but definitely coming back down to where it was before this giant rise in demand. And then we've got the Reshiram. This will be, I think, the last. No, we're looking at both of them, the Reshiram and the Zekrom. We talked about this a little bit the other day when we talked about the recent uprise of Black and White. These cards also doing the same thing as what we saw from the Black and White era. So Reshiram, this card has jumped up 550%. Like, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this. Obviously, this is just getting bought up because of the announcements of Black Bolt, White Flare. This is not going to hold at this level. It's up 551%, which is crazy, sitting at $11.65. Do I think it's going to retrace down to $1.79? No, absolutely not. But it'll definitely get back down to single digits right now. A lot of people FOMOing. A lot of people like, oh, I got to get this card before it jumps up even higher. This card wasn't necessarily the easiest to pull, but it was still relatively simple to pull. And there is a lot of Celebrations packs that are still getting open, like I said before. So 551% is just a lot of growth, sitting at $11.65. Same thing with the Zekrom. That one's up to 381.69%, which is also very high. This one started climbing a lot earlier, so really in November, it was $2.43 when November hit, then jumped up to about $10, $11, retraced a little bit, and now with the announcement of Black Bolt, White Flare, it's jumped up even higher, so it's sitting at $14.21 right now. Very cool looking cards. These are the cards, I believe, that came out in Japan for the 15th anniversary. I think that's our 10th anniversary, one of the two. I can't remember the premium box. I think it was the 15th anniversary that came out in Japan with the Zekrom and the Reshiram. Very cool looking cards. They were obviously very big in the competitive game with that outrage attack. They were used in a lot of decks, so there's a really good storyline behind these cards. Obviously, we're going to get similar cards in black and white, which is very, very exciting, but a little bit abnormal growth here is what we're looking at with the Zekrom and the Reshiram. So if you're a fan of these cards and you want them for your collection, I would hold off a little bit on buying these. But celebrations in general, a lot of corrections going on in the single market, but the sealed is still holding on pretty strong. And with the 30th anniversary coming up, you can let me know in the comment section down below what you think will happen with a lot of the sealed product, because a lot of attention probably is going to be paid to anniversary sets as soon as that 30th anniversary set gets announced, if we do get one. You can let me know what you would like for a 30th anniversary set as well. I'm going to stop talking because my voice is probably really annoying right now. I promise I'm feeling better. My voice is just gone. So I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a long way for the algorithm, but ultimately, thank you just for being here. You guys are awesome. I love you. I'll talk to you again on Sunday. Till next time. Peace.